I'm Mohammed Abdulsalam. I'm a product manager in civil service here in the UK. Been involved with Somalis in tech more or less from the get-go. And I will be your host today. So firstly, Somalis in tech, what are we? We're a community for all things Somali and tech. We've got a few different initiatives. We've got events going on such as this. We've got a Slack community, which is the home for where a lot of the conversations and interesting things happen. So do join our Slack if you're not a member of it already. We'll share a link, but it's basically somalisintech.com/Slack, and you fill out a little form about yourself, so we know what how you'll contribute and what we can tailor to you. Okay, so let me just tell you, before we get into the event that we're here for today, I'll just tell you a little bit about the things that we're excited about as a community. Firstly, the fact that we've now got 1,000 members on Slack sharing knowledge, jobs, and more. So as I said, do join it, somalisintech.com/Slack. You'll meet a lot of like-minded people, but also be able to access a lot of accumulated cultural capital, if I could call it that. It's a huge milestone for us to have reached 1,000 members in such a short time. So amazing congrats to the whole team that have been behind this, but also the whole community, because it's the community that's keeping the Slack going. And of course, they're the ones who are sharing all the different sets of knowledge, individual pieces of knowledge to make it a whole thing. So we've recently launched a Somalis in Tech newsletter. So it's the first one. You can find it in somalisintech.com. somalisintech.substack.com. And what do we talk about in this newsletter? Quite a lot of things, actually. So hopefully it'll be monthly. And this is the first edition, as I mentioned. We'll bring you the latest stuff from the community. We'll announce our events. We know that not everybody goes on Slack regularly. So members of the community ask for something, to keep track of both events that we organize, but also within the community, there are separate events that different members, different channels, shall I say, do organize. And what we'll also do is we'll be taking questions from the community. It might be something along the lines of, I've been offered my first role. Have you got any negotiating tips? So if it's something that we can answer, we'll attempt it. If not, as I said, we've got 1,000 members within the community. So we'll reach out to somebody in the community who we think might have, who we've seen has a good negotiation or experience within that. It might be a HR person. And we'll therefore ask them, and they'll, co-write that part of the newsletter. So if you go on that, you'll see the newsletter, and then there's a form within that where you can fill out questions about anything, and we'll try to address them. Okay, so our annual hackathon, if you remember, last year was October. We hope this time it will be October as well. I'm sure many of you did see it. If not, it's on YouTube. It was an epic first hackathon. So inshallah, now all we've done is put enough pressure on ourselves to try to top that. So we're working on that at the moment, and hopefully we'll be able to announce something soon. But inshallah, keep the last weekend in October free. And hopefully we'll commence the hackathon second edition. I just wanted to give a shout out to this Slack channel, topic, cloud and DevOps. As I said, Slack is where a lot of the conversations take place, but this Slack channel specifically, this group of people who are very active in this group have done something which is exactly one of the things that I had envisioned when we were setting it up, which is it's a space to come together, share knowledge, and self-organize. So, they recently held an event, and they do that quite regularly. So, if you're into DevOps or cloud, join that channel. If not, do join it just to see the amazing stuff that they're regularly discussing and organizing as well. So, shout out to all those in that channel, especially those of you organizing. You know who you are. Cool. Another thing that we're excited about is introducing Sit Down with SIT. That great name was coined by our very own Pfizer. So shout out to Pfizer for that. This time we've got a guest. The first guest is Ismail Ahmed. Indeed, that one. So World Remit founder. That will take place, inshallah, 22nd of September is the provisional date. We just haven't announced it widely just yet, as we're just tying up a few things, but keep that date free. And hopefully we'll be talking to him as well about the recent foundations that he set up, what their goals are, amongst many other things, but also be an opportunity, as always, for you to take your questions, and we'll be going through them. Speaking of questions, we've got the somalisinTech.nuni.io. I shall reshare the link. That's where we'll be taking questions for this event. I've already seen a few questions have already been put in there. So do get them in. If you want to wait until afterwards, then that's fine. But we're supporting a Nuni who's created by one of our community members, actually, Mukhtar. So as always, shout out to Mukhtar for the platform that he's provided us with. You can also upvote amongst many other things. By the way, if you're thinking, oh, can I log in? It's very quick. You can log in with Google. So you don't have to worry about that. And there's no like ads or marketing that will follow afterwards either. So how do you get involved? Today, hashtag Somalis in Tech. Follow us on Twitter as well. But as I said, join the fun, join our Slack channel. That's where a lot of things are happening. People are joining on a daily basis. And really, it's a space where you can also contribute your knowledge, by the way. I'm sure everybody who's taking part today has got some experience that others can benefit from. And that's really what the community is about. So having said that, we shall move on to the reason we're here today, Tech Back Home. So disclaimer, this event will be slightly different because it won't be only in English. So some of our speakers may choose to speak in Somali. You might hear me break into a bit of some English, apologies in advance. And my Somali is not really where it should be, but we'll hopefully get through it. And if it's like completely ineligible and nobody can understand the thing I'm saying, let me know and I shall revert to English. But that option is available. So your questions as well, if you prefer to ask your questions in Somali, do. I will most certainly have somebody else read them out, but we're here for it. So yeah, I'm just gonna get into our speakers now. So our first speaker is Ayan Khalif, and Ayaan is the co-founder of Digital Shelter and director of innovation at iRise Hub. Ayaan, if you'd like to introduce, just before actually Ayaan introduces herself, I'd just like to say, some people might not know, Digital Shelter is a local initiative that promotes digital safety and inclusion in the growing digital civic space within Somalia, as she also has a role at iRise Hub, and it's the first innovation and technology hub in Somalia with the aim of unlocking the potential of Somalis and accelerating change and economic development. So Ayaan, just firstly, tell us how did you get into this space that you now find yourself? Like, what was the story behind the creation of the founding of Digital Shelter?
Thank you, Mohammed. And I will be one of the people who will be mixing Somali and English. I am team some English. So, and my name is Ayan Khalif. I am the co-founder of Digital Shelter, and at the same time, I work at iRise Hub, which is one of the first innovation hubs in Somalia. If I introduce my journey in tech, first of all, I would like to just clarify that I have nothing to do with technology. My background is in procurement and logistics. So how I found myself in this has to do with something with my background in work. And back in 2014, when I got my first job, I remember when I was being interviewed, there were only 2 questions on the table. And they were all like, they were nothing to do with why are you joining this company? What is your background and all of that? They were nothing to do with that. My boss asked me, do I know how to speak English? And do I know how to use the computer? That was the 2 questions, nothing. He didn't want to know anything else. He was like, this is what I'm offering. And I need somebody who can speak English and somebody who can type the computer. At that time, IT school, basically like a small institutions that teaches and computer literacy. So I wasn't that confident in my knowledge in computer, but I knew I could speak English, kinda. So I told him, yeah, I can do this, no problem. No problem. So he's like, okay, the job is yours, take it. That's what he said. Like, I was like, wow, really? And the money he was offering for like a fresh graduate like me was kind of like, it was $300 at that moment, but to me it was like huge amount of money. So I was like, really, you're giving me the job? So I was like, take it, it's all yours, so long as you can do those 2. You can speak English and you can use the computer. So what I did is like most of the times when he gives me like what I will do is I spent most of my time on the internet searching like, how can I use what, how can I use the spreadsheet and all of that, which I didn't know. Like it kind of hit me like whatever I was taught in the school that I came from was more of like theory. There was no practical, which is something that still at this moment still suffers from. Most of the theory, they tell you like you will need the practice when you get the job, which is like really hard. It can cost you your job. So I spent most 90% of my time just on the internet Googling. I will be at work, but I will be 90% searching on how can I switch off and on my laptop and all of that. So I struggle with it. At that moment is when I met two of the colleagues that I ran with the digital shelter, and they had both backgrounds in IT. So they were like, this is what you can do with the computer. This is the stuff that you can do with technology. And it kind of fascinated me. And I actually consider them my teachers because I learned a lot from them. They introduced me to this technology world. And that is when we come up with the idea, like they saw that how much I was struggling with the technology. And they were like, what about the other plenty youth or magaalada joogaan or layirada noocaada camal eh? Because for them, xili waxay soo barteen xili oo magaalada aad u kacsaneed oo like there was the bombs and guns were just going on and off and all of that. So they were like, this is not something actually we learned from school. Like we were just going just to get the certificate. This is something that we learned from the internet, and you can do the same. So we came up with the idea like, can we like have a platform where we discuss this information, like this digital literacy world that Somalia is missing out on? How can we take advantage of it? How can we use like the world are using it? Anaku waxa u isticmaalna in a space that is more of like for the kudirarki oo magaalada dhulka lagu subinayo waxa geeyna internet ka geeyna. We use a space where we either trolling people or we are just using it for fun. We are not using it like the rest of the world is using as a knowledge platform or as a space where people can make money of. So the idea was for us to just start a space where we can have this conversation. So when we launched this shelter, like we came to notice like most of people are not actually interested in this because they don't have the knowledge and skills. Qof oo computer ka isticmaali karna oo YouTube waxa si loo talgalay isticmaali karna, you cannot tell them like this is how you can make money from the internet, this is how you can join the e-commerce. So we tracked it back, and then we said like we can actually divide digital shelter into 3 or 2 ways. One, we can use it in a space lagu faa'iideyna dhalinyarada oo lagu baraayo basic digital literacy. Like we don't have to teach them everything, but we just teach them the importance of this digital literacy and how you can join this IT world. From there, they can choose to go to university or pursue in this career. And in a space where we can discuss the opportunities that are available, where we discuss with the dhalinyarada ugu badan oo fahamsan IT ga magaalada ku jirta, like the team we have here, Shaks and Mukhtar Amal. We have those kind of people like where we give them panelists or this kind of events, and then we talk about discuss the possibility, the endless opportunities that are in the internet. And the third one is whereby we negotiate with the government in creating policies, because the dhalinyarada badan, especially with the girls, are really struggling with the internet. They rather avoid it or they use it in the most annoying ways, which are the things that they do on the TikTok. So where we can have the policies that gives the freedom to these people, like accountability, like this is not the things that you can do in the internet. This is something that we have a whole sector of IT in the Dolada, but it's not functioning at all. So what we're trying to do is like have the conversation with them. We start with, we need these policies, these are the kind of things we need. We need this kind of curriculum within our education system, and trying to change things. From there is where I joined IRA's Hub, which is the first technology hub in Somalia. And this is a space where we daily talk about the internet and how we can take advantage of the technology and the things that we can do with the technology. So basically, my background has nothing to do with IT, but I live in the sector of IT to a point where wherever we are celebrating World Teachers Day, in my mind, I'm just like, no, I'm celebrating the internet because I literally learned everything that I know today from the internet. So before I go any further with that, and that is my history with tech, how I joined this tech, and that's how we found Digital Shelter. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Ayaan. But I think you touched on something very interesting. Tech is not just like software developers. Like for example, the role that you're doing, the policy, even like my role, product management. There are so many roles outside of actually being the person that is, creating the programs. So I think it's fair to say, having heard what you're doing now, you're definitely in the tech space and firmly within it as well. But mashallah, it's really interesting and to hear, especially about the policy side. That wasn't, I hadn't come across that too much, and it's great to know that there's some work being done to facilitate that, so that as many people can access internet as frequently as possible. But I'm sure we'll come back. I'm sure there'll be some questions for later. So thank you, Ayaan. I now want to introduce Mukhtar Hakaale. Mukhtar is head of software development at Somtel Group. and is also the co-founder of Som Digital Solutions. I'm sure you heard of Somtel Group, but it's one of the predominant telecoms companies in Somaliland and beyond, actually, apologies, and beyond. I think they cover the whole region. Som Digital Solutions is a consultancy building tailor-made software, UI, UX, as well as providing support and maintenance to many individual clients that they have. Mukhtar is very experienced coming from, having been in the fintech space as well as telecom. So Mukhtar is a person whom I hold dearly, having taken care of me during my trip to Somaliland and Somalia in 2018. So Mukhtar, just before you introduce yourself, but my question for you as well is, how did you find yourself in this position? How did you get into tech? So storigas inosheg inshallah.
sabab waa si fiican aad baad maasantay walaal maxamed absalaan anigu runtii Soomaali baan ku hadlayaa oo sida maxamedow sii sheegay
ku hadal waa la baahanyahay anigana marmar waxa laga yaabaa inaan Soomaali kuugu jawaabo insha Allah. Exactly
maadaama runtii community-geenu Soomaali yahay dadka dhamaanteen meesha nagula jira dhamaantoodna ay Soomaali yihiin community-ga marka magaciisa aan doonayaa inaan hadalka ka dhex muujiyo marka anigu caawa hadalka waxaan insha Allah ta'ala ku hadli doonaa Soomaali all insha Allah ta'ala meeting-keena xabad English kaga soo dhacdana xagga dambe ka sii turjumaya mar labaad dhamaan aad baan u salaamayaa akhyaarta ku jirta wax weeyaan degalkan maanta wax weeyaan nugula soo qayb gashay aad baan runtii dhamaantood idin soo wada dhaweynayaa mar labaad waxaan aad uga mahad celinayaa runtii teamka Somali Tech maanta nagu soo dhaweeyay event-kan aad ku caaqibada la runtii inaynu ka hadalno maxaa opportunity ama maxaa dalkii yaala technology marka koowaad magacaygu waa Mukhtar Maxamed Ali oo ku magac dheer Mukhtar Hakaale waxaa runtii su'aasha Maxamed weydiiyay baan toos u geli doonaayo runtii badweyn oo islahayn waad ka gayoobaysaayo 2 iyo 3 iyo 10 mir baa lagu soo koobi karaa laakiin waan soo koobayaa qaabkan u soo galay anigu technology-gan ama xaggan ka bilaabay hayaanka dheer ee technology-yadeed ee maanta aan runtii aan ku shaqeeyo marka koobaad anigu waxaan ka baxay jaamacadda Hargeysa University of Hargeysa 2012 hayaankayga jaamacadeedna wuxuu ku bilaabmay runtii arrin aad iyo aad u adag iyadoo jaamacadda markaan secondary ka baxaan doonayna jaamacadda galo waxaan anigu doonayay shaqo inaan wax barto ama aqoontan doonayay inaan bartaa waxay ahayd pilot engineer marka maadaama aan pilot engineer geeska Afrika iska daa Soomaaliya geeska Afrika oo dhan aan laga helayn aad bay runtii u adkaatay inaan opportunity-ga helo kadib waxyaabihii aan markaa heli karayay ayaan raadiyay jaamacadda Hargeysa oo sanadkii ka horeeyay 2007 laga bilaabay IT ama ICT fakalka la yiraahdo ayaan runtii waxa weeyaan aan apply gareeyay oo nasiir waxa weeyaan waa maanta shayga ku sahli doona inaad haddana hadhowaad noqotid pilot engineer sababta ugu weyn aan ugu soo galay waxay ahayd inaan pilot engineer ka aan doonayo inaan waxa weeyaan la midiisa ay noqoto IT-ga inaan department-ka aan dhigto jaamacadda Hargeysa markaa waxaan xasuustaa runtii waaga markaan jaamacadda dhigan jirnay 5 macallin meelahaas gibigaba waxa koorsiga lagu dhigay jaamacaddaba magaalada joogi jiray marka macallimiinta shirkadaha dalka ugu waaweyn ama daabshiir ha noqoto ama telesom ha noqoto ayaa bay u shaqeynayeen oo 4 macallin baan kolba midba marba xafiiskiisa ugu tagnaa marba hool yar aanu xiisadan lagu soo siin jiray oo runtii aad bay tafo ahay noloshu in technology macallimiin la helo technology dalka aad bay runtii u adkayd waqtigaan ka hadlaya waa 2008 ilaa 2012 marka alxamdulillah waxa weeyaan waxa runtii ku soo hagaagay anigu xilli opportunity-ga dalkan uu aad u badan yahay shaqo la helayo in IT lagu helayo laakiin ay yar tahay qaabka lagu gaari karayo iyo meesha sida wax weeyaan loo gaariyo wax weeyaan hawshaasina lagu soo qabsan karayo marka runtii anigu layerka markaan jaamacaddan ka baxayay software development ayaan aad wax weeyaan u xiiseynayay xoogga aan u saarayay oo doonayay inaan wax weeyaan hayaankayga nololeed aan ka mid noqdo inaan software development marka dhinaca software development kan u dhaqaaqay programmingka shaqadii ugu horeysay marka laga yimaado shaqo basic oo markaan jaamacadda ka baxay runtii aan helay oo waxa weeyaan hay'ad NRC la yiraahdo aan ka helay waxa igu xigtay dahabshiil oo ka shaqo galay 2012 marka oo ku bilaabay positionka ah support engineer inaan support gareeyo waxa weeye engineerada software developerska ee shirkadda jooga marka muddo runtii 3 sano gudaheed oo ku beegan 2015 horaanteedii ayaa waxa weeyaan positionka aan u sii dhaafay ah admin oo ah in technical teamka aan maamulkooga dhinaca adminka noqdo oo iyaduna la sii tacalluqdo shaqadii supportka una ahayd oo lagu sii dalaacsiiyay marka 2015 waxa runtii ku sii xigtay anigoo u dalacay waxa weeyaan asa junior developer 2016 inta aan hayaanka ku jiro waxaan doonayaa inaan meesha iyadana aanay ka maqnaan xuso waxaan kamid ahaa macallimiinta jaamacadaha dalka waxaan ka dhigay ilaa 6 jaamacadood oo Somaliland iyo hal jaamacada oo Muqdisho ah marka jaamacadda ugu horeey jaamacadda Alfa waan ka dhigay Hargeysa jaamacadda New Generation macallin baan ka ahaa jaamacadda Armas iyaduna Hargeysa ku taala macallin baan ka ahaa isla markaa waxaan ka ahaa jaamacadda Hargeysa ka soo baxay marka runtii ilaa 6 jaamacadoodna waan ka soo dhigay oo macallin jaamacadeed baan ahaa inta hayaankan ku soo dhex jiray waxyaabaha badanaa fokaan saari jiray ama aan dhigi jirayna waxa weeyaan software development waxa la tacalluqa ama waxa weeyaan programmingka iyo database-ka inta marka laga yimaado anigoo hayaankayga sii raacaya runtii shaqo waxaan 2016 horaanteeda aan iyadana waxa weeyaan aan positionka la isii magacaabay senior software developer dahabshiil sanadkii hadda la soo dhaafay 2020 bishii Augustna waxa la magacaabay positionkan hadda imkaan joogo ee maamulaha guud ee software developmentka Somtel group oo 3 market ah oo Somaliland iyo Somalia North Somalia iyo Puntland marka inahaasan ku soo koobaya Somtel iyo dahabshiil group hayaankeeda haddana in yar iyadana yar carabaabo Somtel iyaduna sidii aan ku sameeyay shirkadda baahida runtii taala dalkeena ee ah dhinaca development ama programmingka ee shirkadihii dalka ay dhammaantood u baahan yihiin hay'adihii u baahan yihiin cid kasta oo dalka timaada ay u baahan tahay inay hesho facility runtii in ama ay hesho cid waxa weeyaan consultant oo ah oo kala tala bixiso oo ka siisa waxyaabaha dalka yaala waxa runtii aan ka fikiray inaan sameeyo company waxaan sameeyay company-ga Somali Solutions 2017 bishii 7 hadda company-gu waa 5 sano jira waxa weeyaan runtii mainly waa consultant ah waliba dhinaca software development-ka ama fintech marka waxa weeyaan career-kaygu wuxuu aad iyo aad runtii ugu badan yahay ama ugu badan yahay dhinaca fintech-ga marka runtii shirkadda Somali Solutions waxay ka shaqeysaa geeska Afrika oo Somaliland, Somalia, Djibouti, Kenya iyo Ethiopia mashaariica laftirkeega aan ka fulnay runtii dalka dibadiisa iyo inta geeska dibadiisa jirta oo Canada iyo Finland iyo aan mashaariic u sameynay company runtii jira marka runtii mainly waxaan focuska saarnaa waa software development-ka waliba dhinaca fintech-ga kullayba waxaan filayaa hadalka inaan soo kooba ku yar qurux badan tahay oo waa badweyn baan dhinac ka uga dhaxbaxaya marka hadalka intaasan ku soo koobaya iyo barashadeeda insha Allah teamka assalaamu calaykum
nice ما شاء الله mahadsanid Mukhtar horta waxaan ka helay in ma aragtay sida sheegaysay awal dhibaatada jirtay waxay ahayd macallimiinta ma badnayn intooda u badanna waxay ka shaqeynayeen ma aragtay company-yaasha technology-ga oo sare and full circle sheekada ay soo wareegtay oo adigana markaa shaqooyinkaas bilowday inaa adigana ku noqotay jaamacadda oo the next generation ma aragtay tababartay oo tacliintaadana ma aragtay tusisay wallahi waa 10 out of 10 ما شاء الله marka definitely waa ku soo noqonaynaa jaawa u jeedaa su'aalaha la diyaariyay hadhow insha Allah ka jawaabaysaa marka aad iyo aad u mahadsan tahay Mukhtar haddana we're going to hear from, inshallah, Shaks and Shedana Abdishkur, who is the founder of Bihi. And Shaks, for the past few years, he's been in the startup scene, combining his business know-how and tech background. And before that, his career began in 2006, his tech career as part of the second batch for Google Summer of Code. And he spent the next 4 years working with different stacks in both open source and private development. And between that and now, he's also been involved in marketing, having worked at companies like lastminute.com, as well as Red Bull. So Shaks, the same question to you that we've asked everyone, aside from introducing yourself more eloquently than I have. Tell us tell us back in 2006, or maybe more so for you since you're focusing on Bihi, like what is Bihi? And can you tell us a little bit about the journey of founding that? So I'll just repeat that for you. If you could rather tell us about Bihi and the journey to founding that. Over to you, Shaks.
Thank you, Mohammed. You know, it's great hearing from the other speakers. So let me see if I can summarize my little bit background. As Mohammed mentioned, I graduated from computer science in Brunel University. So hello, my fellow Londoners. I now reside in Somalia, and I have been for the past nearly 2 years now, which has been an amazing experience. Never thought I would actually be in Somalia, so that's another interesting fact. In terms of, although I graduated in computer science, I worked a few years, had a great opportunity. I used to be those little script kiddies that used to sit on IRC and the likes back in the early 2000s. So that became a natural way for me to flow into technology. But I always found it frustrating that during that period, that as a technologist, you were at the bottom of the proverbial ideation funnel. So every time people would come and it would be like, here, build this. And it was usually the same thing, build me the next social network. Got tired of that and decided I wanted to do something. I was really good at the people side of it. I love the psychology side of things and understanding human behavior. And then naturally that led me to marketing. And it's amazing because as with marketing, and the interesting thing is, as marketing was developing, I was using more and more of my technology know-how, because marketing's foundation, data gathering, understanding human behavior was getting more and more linked to technology and the internet. And so which allowed me to kind of, although I left development behind, to stay abreast of that and be helping companies to adjust to that. And I think the future marketeer is someone that is, the CMO of the future is someone that is naturally comfortable with technology, as opposed to what it is with most large companies at the moment. So, you know, as stories tends to go, get to my 30s and I am tired of working for the corporate life. Decided I wanted to do something else and threw in what I call, I don't know if any of you heard of the concept, the fuck you fund. The idea behind the fuck you fund is basically to save up enough money that if your boss gives you, or the company you're working for gives you a bit of an attitude, or it becomes an unhealthy place to work, you can just simply tell them, fuck you, and walk out without having to worry about the next paycheck. So while I was doing that, I decided to, what do I want to do? I came up with an idea to work on Hakaale side of things. I felt that Hakaales could really use some serious help. And this created the inception of what we call Deg, which was a mobile digital money remittances. Worked within that space, which unfortunately meant having to relearn things that I've somewhat forgotten, you know, database structures, learning React Native as it was coming out, you know, building the Mahala backend and the likes. And that was all the easy part, you know, having to deal with Somalis and telling them, hey, I want to join the Hakaale business, and everyone telling you, so that was a bit interesting. And alhamdulillah, that kind of went for a while, but found it really hard to work within the Somali space. Somalis are amazing at two things, telecoms and money remittances. Don't even bother going into those spaces with Somalis, because they've already done everything that they can in that space and they own it outright. And they kind of bully you out of it, if I'm being honest. So whilst I was messing around with that, I started meeting some of the larger companies, Hormuz, Dahabshil, and the likes. And one of the offers that was given to me was Hormuz said, hey, look, we love what you're doing. Supposedly they couldn't work with me, but why don't you come work with Mahallaha and help us start companies on the ground? So as part of that, I came to start up a company called Faras. It's the first e-commerce last mile delivery platform. And so I did the whole financial plan, the business plan, getting it all up and running. And it's different when you've kind of worked in a digital settings on abroad, and then you come here and realizing there is so many opportunities. Whereas and abroad, people have already entered different spaces. In Somalia, what you start noticing is this thing doesn't exist there, this comfort doesn't exist there, that comfort doesn't exist there. And when you ask people, do they want it? It isn't necessarily money the issue, but rather the availability and the know-how to a degree. I'll give you an example of this. While I was hiring people, I've hired a marketing manager, and the marketing manager knew her really well, could do it, no issue. I tried to get her to open up an Excel sheet and work with me on Excel so we can do our financial planning. One of the, she kept constantly insisting to use her mobile. And when I was like, why? And she was, well, to mobile, computer, I say 2015. Which in itself, although ingenious, is still somewhat cumbersome. So there is a barrier to tech know-how on the ground. Those that know tech know it really well, and then the rest are very much laggards in terms of the availability, which then naturally has an effect on what companies build, the user experiences, the UIs that are created, how government relates to technology and it utilizes technology. All of these, in my opinion, are subpar. And that isn't because we're lacking the know-how, but rather those that have the know-how are so valued that they can decide where they work and with whom that they work from there. But to cut a long story short, one of my key interests have always been kind of the finance area after I've gone into Hakaale. And I've realized a lot of the Bihi in itself, the concept is supposed to be a payment aggregator gateway. Because at the moment in Somalia, every company and all these financial institutions, they created this silo and they said, and there is a degree of protectionism, but there's no laws to stop this in itself. So without becoming the same as them, can we be a player that helps people utilize the best of these services? Can we help Somalis become a lot more connected and digitally enabled in the way that they sell online and in the way that they exchange money and locally as well, from eDahab to EBC to Premier Wallet to, and I think there's 9 different payment things. Interesting things for those of you that haven't been to Somalia, I haven't touched cash for nearly 9 months, I believe, so far. So it's always on my mobile. I don't carry cards, I don't carry nothing. I carry my mobile and I use that. And which that in itself, if you think about it, brings great opportunity for the future. So on that note, and thanks, Shaks. And yeah, another interesting things. Before I started Bihi and Jarab and Subina, I was making crepes. So from making crepes to coding and how the apps is a interesting transition as well.
Thank you very much, Shax. I think the number of people that have FU funds will exponentially increase in our community as of today. So thank you. We've got, I think, Edo live tweeting. So we might want to maybe use many asterisks to describe that. But thank you very much. Having known Shax for many years, grew up in the same area, is not a surprise to me. But I'm really excited about the upcoming conversations. It's clear we've got a variety of experiences in this panel today. So I won't take too much time before we really get into it. And I forgot to actually plug Milgo HQ. So anybody who's in Hamad or has family in Mogadishu Hamad today, do go Milgo HQ. Use the code SIT for 20% off.
I got you.
Use the code SIT for 20% off. قفل بحمر جوان مقشان ميلجو HQ SIT هذا كل تراهدين 20% ولازم واني اللي جرايا مركوا كاسا. Okay, cool. So inshallah I'm gonna stop sharing my screen And I just wanted to say again, hashtag Somalis in Tech, follow us on Twitter and join the community. We've got, I know Mukhtar Hakaale is in the community. I know and Shaks is in the community. I don't know for sure if Ayaan is, but Ayaan will be part of the community at the end of tonight, bi'idhnillah. So without further ado, I will stop sharing my screen. And I will have a few questions that I will ask before we get into questions from the rest of which I will go to Nuni shortly. But before we do that, I just wanted to say some of this you've already touched on some of the challenges. But before we get to the challenges, I wanted to ask, what are some of the trends you're seeing on the ground? So what seems to be an area that is growing? And I asked this question first to Mukhtar Hakaale, because he's, as some digital, you have clients that I'm sure are coming to you for different requests. marka maxaa aragtay oo ma aragtay bariyahan client yaashina inta u badan maxay rabaan inay u sameeyeen oo mashruuc hoose ah ay rabaan ay weydiistaan.
maxamed waa aad badan maasanta runtii su'aashaada weydiisay. anigoo soo koobaya runtii horta hal arrin bay Soomaalidu leeyihiin guud ahaan runtii qofka system u baahan wali imka waxaynu maraynaa levelkii waraaqaha ayaynu hadda ka soo guurnay oo imka ganacsideena ama dadka waxa weeyaan runtii businessyada ku jira ay ku soo baraarugeen in adduunyadii ay systemyo lagu isticmaalo oo qofkii waraaqahani way ka gubanayaan hadday doonaan waxa weeyaan financial history-giisii oo dhan oo 20 sano ama 30 sano aba file iskaga jira gidaarka yaala haddii la doono waa la xadayaa marka hadda un baa ku soo baraarugeen runtii guud ahaan in systemka la isticmaalo marka gaab baa inoo yar dhaxeeya marka laga yimaado qofka baahidu doonayo iyo waxa qofka loo sameynayo inta marka waxa loo sameynaya aan la imanba shayga ugu weyn ee dadkeena haysa dhibka ugu weyn ee haysa Soomaaliyeena guud ahaanba qofkii wixii uu doonayay ma qeexi karo ma sheegi karayaan waxaan u baahanahay ku oran kari maayo ERP system buu soo arkay udu Microsoft koolonaya ERP system u baahanahay.
Mukhtar inoo sheeg ERP maxaa waaye inoo sheeg say qof walba
okay exactly sorry for that waxaan islahaa cid kastoo meesha ku jirta waa technical waa isla fahmaysan okay waa run ERP system waxa weeyaan ama ERP-sku waa enterprise waxa weeyaan productiska la isticmaalo ee kala moduulada kala duwan ee shirkaduhu ay ku isticmaalaan ama adeegyadooda ay ku fuliyaan ay ku jiraan wax ka badan 2 moduul tusaale ahaan finance moduul tusaale ahaan HR system tusaale ahaan CRM tusaale ahaan asset management marka moduulo kala duwan ayuu ka kooban yahay kaasiyo dhammaantii ku soo koobaya shirkadaha waaweyn adeegyada kala duwan ay qaban karayaan in lagu shaqeeyo ama lagu xuso marka runtii kaasi waa badweyn marka dhibka ugu weyn ee meesha taala waxa weeyaan aan doonay inaan yara qeexo dhibkaas iyadoo dadkeena ay haysato ayaa qofkii ugu baahan yahay tusaale ahaan system loo sameeyo marka imka su'aashu waxay ku tacalluqdaa hal shayada ugu dambeeyay ama ugu badan leedin weydiiyaa waa maxay as company-ga Som Digital ay dadku idin leeyimaadaan ama ay wax diga weydiiyaan in loo sameeyo runtii waxa ugu badan horta imika trend ah oo for the last 2 years e-commerce baa jira oo aad loo weydiiyaa runtii e-commerce platform marka aanu ilaa imikana company weyn oo yani company success ah dhowr company baan garanayaa runtii oo Soomaaliya guud ahaan aan ku arkay oo ka mid yahay Somar oo ka mid yahay Allahumma salli ala Muhammad Siqi oo ka mid yahay Sami Online oo runtii company dhowra jira oo runtii hana qaaday oo taaba galay oo sida Sami Online oo kala runtii oo Somaliland oo dhan iyo Soomaaliya runtii ka shaqeeya Somar Online oo iyaguna arkay marka trendka waxaan ilaa imika runtii ugu badan ee dadkeena wax weeyaan jira waa e-commerce system laakiin baahida ugu weyn ee meesha jirta waxa weeyaan chainka e-commerce-ka wixii isku xidhay ayaan ilaa hadda runtii layerkaasaan la dhamaystiran oo ah logistics-ka iyo procurement-ka runtii marka waxaan filayaa qodobka ugu muhiimsan ee dhalinyarta guud ahaanna haysata dhalinyarta kaliya ayaan odhanay dadka platformka runtii wax weeyaan aadka wax weeyaan noo weydiiya waa logisticska iyo procurement-kaas cilad weyn ay ka haysataa oo runtii sidaynu garanayno de Amazon habeen kaliya laguma samayn oo steps badan bay soo martay shayguna marka e-commerce uu yahay muhiimadda ugu weyn waxa weeyaan shayga logisticska iyo alaabaha xagga laga helayo platformku runtii ismalihi waa wax hawl saa u sii weyn platform kala duwan bay la helayaa oo qaab kala duwana runtii dadkaasna runteeda aan badankooda aan ka iibino ama aanu siino laakiin ugu weynee baahida taala waxa weeyaan waa logisticska iyo dhibaatooyinka dhinaca ka haysta marka waxyaabaha ugu badan waa waxa horta badiyahan ugu dambeysay 2 sano ugu dambeysay na weydiinay
good mahsan Mukhtar waa very interesting e-commerce ma aragtay waa on the rise waa loo baahan yahay demand laakiin challenge weyn wuxuu ka jiraa dhinaca oo ah and last mile delivery or ma aragtay sidii dadka waxooda u helayaan and very interesting one follow up question oo ah su'aalan inaan ku weydiiyo marka challenge waa sheegtay waxa kamid ah deliveryga iyo dhinacaas logisticska procurement laakiin ka waran payment kana online waa la bixin karaa u maleynaya dhinacaas dhibaato kama jirto e-commerce-ka
run ahaantii waxa weeyaan taasi waa waxa weeyaan waxaan isleeyahay waa shayada ugu waaweyn ee dalkeena maanta aan marnaba laga fikirayn runtii qaabkii lacag loo bixin lahaa sida uu shaakba sheegay dalka Soomaaliya wax lacag oo cash oo laga isticmaalo haba yaraatee ma jirto waa digital waa shirkadaha jira ee anagu ka mid nahay Dahabshiil group ahaan waxaan leenahay platform Dahab la yiraahdo runtii waliba anigu initiative-kiisa lahaa oo API aan sameeynay oo nu sii daynay aan hirgelinay 2020 bishii 6 ama June marka Dahab API wuxuu ka caawinayaa any platform aad haystid ama web application ku dhisan ama mobile app ku dhisan oo u baahan tahay inaad customer lacag ka heshid inaad adigoon xafiisna iman Dahabkaaga adigu agent aad leedahay ama merchant aad leedahay aad systemkaaga ku xidhatid oo si fudud oo qofkii lacag uga soo qaadan karaysid ama aad ka soo saaran karaysid wax weeyaan aad ka codsan karaysid qofkuna waxa weeyaan waxa ka soo bixin karayo isagoo maraya two factor authentication marka ugu horeyso anagu aanu validate gareynayno qofka inuu yahay qofkii lacagtan bixinayay mar labaadna systemka qofku waxa weeyaan ku dirsanayo oo runtii aan shaakooyinka xaggan igula jiraa panel kamid ah customer noo yahay marka Dahabshiil group aan nahay oo adeegyo isagu laftirkiisa uu isticmaalo runtii uu ku isticmaalo API-gayga marka xagga payment-ka runtii wax carqalad oo haba yaraatay ka tagay ma jirto waxaan musleenahay waxaad gaari doontaan levelka ugu sareeya oo runtii mar walba standardkan raacnaana ay tahay standardka caalamka maanta laga isticmaalo oo waxa weeyaan payable iyo kuwa lamidka ay isticmaalaan
good mashallah waa very good to hear ma aragtay opportunity-ga oo in xitaa ina ogaano waxyaalaha ma aragtay oo aad iyo aad lagu fiican yahay so that's very good payment waa ma fi mushkila very good to hear mahadsanid Mukhtar waxaan rabay ayaan ina adeegna Abdishkur waa soo geli rabtay oo maleynaya Shaks, you gonna come in?
Yeah, I was. Sorry. One of the things I wanted to mention is when we talk about e-commerce, I think the least of the problem is technology. Ultimately, it's about Somalia has a broken supply chain. Once you put the technology in place, is how do you get your products from A to B? How, it's far easier to ship and vegetables from Kenya than it is from anywhere in Somalia itself. The roads are broken, there is no refrigeration, so there are issues that are standing in like certain businesses because of that and supply chain and procurement issues. So that's one thing to take into consideration. So yes, you can do e-commerce, but then one of the things that I researched heavily is if I wanted to have a drop shipping mechanism, or I wanted to be able to buy things from Dubai to Somalia, or from London to Somalia, again, the kind of making sure that supply chain, how quickly can it come to Somalia, and all these things are things that are constantly require people who can actually delve into these topics and specialize in it. Like myself, we delved in, but then you start realizing the costs become prohibitive for most services. And on the point of EDAB API, yes. And for those that are interested, and I see a few people that are asking in the chat, EDAP API works amazingly well, super friendly. The team have been amazing, so we've worked with them. And one of the best teams we've worked with, and that's not because he's in front of me. But what we've also done is, for anybody who's interested, you can ping me. We've repackaged a lot of the APIs so that we become, instead of going to each of these providers, Bihi can become the gateway for you if you wanted to sell to Somalis locally. That's just my little sales pitch in there.
A little cheeky plug in there. We like it. Shaks. So I was going to ask Ayaan Hita a similar question, because I think so. And Mukhtar, he talked, mainly from a B2B, business to business, or what the opportunity trends are. But Ayaan, I think I'm had as and what is some of the key areas, or I think I had that seen maybe from a policy perspective, advocated and I rise what dadka maxay isku dayayaan inay galaan, like what are the common trends adigana arkaysid from your perspective, from dhinacina.
Thank you, Mohammed, and thank you, Mukhtar. The points that I was going to cover was said by Mukhtar, but waa ku sii daraya. And I don't know any shaksi Mukhtar ila arken, but something that is trending in Somalia are the coffee shops. But with the coffee shops, they came hali imaaday dhalinyaro or online business ka shaqaysanas. You will just see like so many youth who are just sitting at the coffee shops on their computers, coding, programming, and all of that. And it kind of like occurred to me like dhalinyaradan, because I know the jamacadaha magaalada ka jira are not that well equipped like to give them the skills that they need. So it kind of like occurred to me like halkay kasoo bartaan waxaan halkay ka keensadaan. And as somebody who works in Iris Hub, dhalinyaro badana waxaan la imaanan, because we do give small grants or dhalinyaro loo talka inay startup ka business kooda ku bilaamadaan, or where we can help them like build up their startup in business in terms of incubations. So I kind of like question them like waxaan halkay kasoo barteen, because are they like have things changed in Somalia? Do we have big IT institutions or waxaan soo baran? And then they were like, no, this is something that we learn online. We are more of like a self-taught, and that just shows you how beautiful the internet is. Like sorry for the word that I use, will the company website and then they're telling me like this is something that I learned from the internet. So with the booming of the coffee shops in Somalia came with this youth that really wants to do like online business. Another thing that we see like the digital economy in Somalia is like more of like a new concept in Somalia. Even though we have successful businesses like Zad mobile money in Somaliland and the e-commerce business that really fascinated me the most, which was trending more of like, I think 2019 or 2020 was Arifam, which is something beautiful. Will dhalinyaro ku dhahay and ariga waxa ku gadaya maxaa la online ku gadaya. It's kind of like something that really fascinated me. And as the job market in Somalia fails to provide job opportunities for the most university graduates, more graduates like waxay ku qasbanaanayaan inay their own business la imaadaan, and then what you see is like they don't have the capital to start a business to really get a small to open a small shop in Somalia. It's kind of like really hard. Like the money that you pay, the investment 10 kun ila 10 kun ku kacaysa before you even start your business. So what they do is like they more of like create online businesses whereby they mostly depend on the internet, and which is more of like which is affordable for a fresh graduate, fresh graduates. So what we have been seeing is like youth that really have an interest in the IT sector, especially in programming, web development, and especially in graphic designing. And this is something, a trend that we see especially with village dhalinyarada. The girls are still joining, but we are still catching up. But nonetheless, many of the youth are still missing out the skills needed to really generate enough economy from these online businesses they have. We need that like the enabling environment that really needs to boost the digital economy activities in the country. Another thing that is really trending within Somalia is I don't know, is it because that I'm kind of like involved in hubs and technology hubs or digital hubs, but waxaan arkaya waxa all across Somalia magaalo kasta even though Iris like started this platform, we are seeing like so many waxa arkaysa and hubs of Somali ka bilaabmanaysa, and it's becoming more of like Somali waxay radaa wixii cusub caalamka jecel. So it's kind of like it became a trending thing. Tech hub. So what these hubs basically offer the entrepreneurs is like more of like a platform for technology innovation, a collaboration including businesses, training, mentorship. They offer like free internet, project evaluation, and support in the incubation stage of their startup. And this kind of like gives them like that co-working space where they can just use it, and that is more of like keen to people who are using technology to drive their business. So the trend that I'm basically seeing that is like Somalia hadda ka socoto waxaa waa dhalinyarada oo IT-ga jeclaatay oo kusoo baxday, especially wiilasha iyo gabdhaha in Allah soo qabadsiiyo. We are still, as digital chapter, we're really pushing, like we have like we usually in every 3 months or 6 months we hold training. So what we do is 2 training is kind of mixed, and 1 training we just give it to the girls because like we want to build them, that we want them to push them into this digital world so that we can have like a more of like an equality tech world whereby both and girls ka wada shaqaysan karaan. So something that is trending for us is like digital world, dhalinyarada indhaha kusoo kala furayso where they want to work, and then they have like their own businesses and stuff, and the hubs that are really offering these spaces or the co-working spaces with the technology and all of that. With that, I say thank you.
No, mashallah, it's very, very, very interesting to hear Ma'arati about this, especially the effort that you're putting on Hitadina and Gabdaha as well, so that they're benefiting as well as the boys, because Washakti, a lot of the coffee shops we jogo. So it's really important to hear that there's an focused opportunities for Gabdaha as well. So and actually I think and that you touched on already. And marka waxaan rabay inaan ka hadlno dhinaca startup-ka, and I know dadkeena waxa way very entrepreneurial. I've seen as well in Somalia, Somaliland, there's a lot of small business owners. So what is maybe difficult to in shaqo la helo, unemployment is high, like as a result that, but then maybe a few small things ay sameynayaan. So and I didn't ask, that's traditional and entrepreneurship. So in the tech scene from a startup point, and what you already touched on, like capital investment is a challenge. What are some of the challenges of a startup founder, and that would be maybe Hargeisa, somewhere else, Hamar, or Beida? What are some of the challenges if you have a startup? And you can talk about capital as well, because it's interesting. We have more hubs now and tech hubs. Marka, how is it working as a startup founder?
Thank you, Mohammed. I think that is like a question that we have really been dealing with in Ayra's Hub, because startup funding, because the problem actually was before, like business and all of that. So we said, okay, we are going to solve the solution of the money, but what are you guys bringing to the table? So we started giving them like small funding, like we see where you cannot give somebody like 50K not knowing where the business will go. So we started something like 10K, 5K and all of that to see how far they will go. So what we see is like we have given so far, if I'm not wrong, in Ayra's website, more than 50 small startups. But if you trace it back and you do a research on it, you will see only 1 or 2, 3 are still working at, and it kind of like boggles us and questions us like, where are these startups? And then when you trace it back, you see like they have actually failed. Because the idea of business and then they just got carried away. Like everybody wants to open their own business, everybody wants to be their own boss. The idea like you have in a social you have to like learn how to work with other people, how you can be professional in the working space and all of that. But like to have a business but doesn't know how to run a business. But running a business is not actually an easy thing. It's something that I say I know how I will get business I will just like invest in people, and then I will be like run it for me and then just give me my money, because running business is like something that really needs a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of sacrifice. And something that that motivation, like this is something that is your own, that you really invest in it. And the skill business versus what we have on the ground are really way different. So like that sacrifice, like you have to learn, you have to do a lot of research, you have to gain new skills, like you have to push yourself. Something that's really making these businesses fail is that another thing that we actually writing a research paper on it that we are going to release soon, is like why the most startups in Somalia are failing. That's where they do most of the registrations. And then we are like, we want to see the number of startups, and then there were like thousands and thousands. And we were like, why all of this do we have? Like they registered, they paid money for it, but they were getting a business permit in Somalia. It's not an easy thing. It's one of the struggles that we have within Somalia. Business startup
wow.
We have actually had one of the youth that we were funding their startup. So he came up with an idea of a product or so when he went to the government, oh, this is something like a new sector. Why? So like, but we are going to charge you $1,000. And they were like, what the hell are you guys talking about? This is a startup. lacagta siinayna anaka inta iska yarba maxay sheegaysaa waxa charge garanaysa. So one of the things that we are actually advocating at Ayaan is whereby startups in laga qaadin and lacagta permit ka shaqada lagu bilaabo inta laga qaadin because lacag yar ay kala siinaya in tax laga qaadin for about like the first few years ay shaqaysanayaan like they shouldn't be charged any tax and all of that. But still dhalinyarada waxa laga kari laayay in lagala imaado like the skills the sacrifices. So we kind of like shifted our idea in more of like any ciyaalka loo qabo dhalinyarada loo qabto training whereby we teach them like employability skills because like in la dhaho qofka soo shaqeysa shaqada soo gal soo bar si dadka loo shaqeeyo skills ka soo yeelo and learn to be able to work with people because most of the startups we see what they fail because like team building ka maqan like we don't know qof kasta wuxuu wata their own idea like I want to get rich I want to get money but that you have a team that you cannot run this business alone I fahamsan lahayn. So that's what we are seeing currently.
Wow, mashallah, it's very, very interesting. And it shows the importance of policy. For example, so that Shege say to reduce the cost of starting a business. And is very, very important. And is wallahi, mashallah, there's so many opportunities, but so many challenges as a starting as a young, startup founder. We have a lot of questions, but I want to do a follow-up to Mukhtar, and because Ayaan spoke a lot about startups that are in the early stages, Mukhtar. So the challenges they face. Like in Adi Mukhtar, you're in a position I think maybe clients could call him and startups that have been running already, maybe or a bit more mature. And what are some of the challenges haystaan kuwa client-ki or client-ka adiga ku imaado ama xitaa no may necessarily your own clients but generally adigana aragtay. Mukhtar, you're on mute. Waa ogaa maanta at least hal qof we're gonna have mashallah we did well ila 8 o'clock dhinacayga in la gaaro 1 hour without qof la dhahay come off mute marka goldan kale adiga qofka koowaad ah
hadda bal maqlaya
yes
su'aashii markaa imku wii kala yaacday markaad hadda arintaas xaga ay marayso waxaan imika su'aashiina dib ugu soo celisay noqonaysa
absolutely no problem marka adiga taa really isku su'aal ah laakiin oo ah adiga maxaa arkaysaa dhinaca adiga joogtid iyo maybe clients-ka idinkani imaado startups-ka maxay tahay challenge-yaasha ay haystaan because adiga waxaan kuu weydiiyey waxaan isleeyahay qolada dadka idinka ku imaado waa a bit more mature ma ahan qof oo hadda kow bilaawayo because idinka of course waa qof oo capital lacag haysto inuu idinkana service-kiina aan bixiyo marka clients-kaaga maxaa aragtay iyakana challenge-kooda qofka oo iyakana kuwa startup-ka ah.
Okay maxamed walaalaad badan ma sidii runtii su'aasha horta sida ay walaala ayaanba ay sheegtay runtii dhibaato badan dadka horta waxay ka haysataa qaybta inuu qofkan waxan uu doonayo iyo meesha uu doonayo qof runtii qaabku uu bilaabayay inay hiikacun ay ka tahay oo kelmadda Somali waa hiikac English tan maxay ku noqonaysaa in qofku yani isagoon shaygii aan hayn laakiin tacticadii iyo business modelkii iyo strategic plankii financially adoo doona dhowr kun isku ergagay kadib isku hiikacaya wuxuu oranaya business caynkaas uu arkayo success noqday kaasoo kala baan doonayaan samaysto marka runtii business-yada noo yimaada startup-ka xoogaa laakiin iyagu wax haysta xagga financial markaan ka eegno dhibka ugu badan iyo waxyaabaha ugu badan runtii aan ka caawinaa waa caqabada ugu badan ee ka haysta waa strategic iyo business plan-ka waa business model-ka oo qofka aan u qeexnayn in buu ka hayaa
yes
tusaale ahaan haddaan sheego logistic company buu haystaa laakiin ma garanayo logistic company-gii qaabkii wixii uu doonayay inuu u hirgasho ama wax uu haystaa wax weeyaan import and export oo kala kadib wuxuu feature kaliya tunbu ka garanaya laakiin business model-kii baa ka dhiman marka runtii waxyaabahan aad kaga caawino consulting company-gaygan Somtel runtii asaaskiisu uu ahaa inaanu aad uga caawino dadka business model-ka inaanu si waadliya ugu sharaxno u fahansiino uga dhaadhicino adduunku siduu u shaqeeyo iyo sida maanta dalku wax lagu doonayo inaanu iswaafajino ta ugu badan runtii ka shaqeynaa waa taa baahida dalka taala qaabkeeba sida adduunka ay u shaqeyso internationally aan ugu apply garaynaa iyadoon mar walba uga faa'iideynayno qofkii ama wax weeyaan customerkii siduu hadhow markuu company-giisan ugu ballaadho tusaale ahaan uu geeska Afrika u gaadho ama uu kasii ballaadho doonayo inuu internationally uu kusii xidho ay at least isku waafaqaan istiraatiijiyadda laga wado company-ga uu la xidhmi doono third party-giisa uu noqonayo ama uu partner kala noqonayo iyo locally waxa weeyaan company-giisu ku shaqeynayo inahaas runtii aan ka caawinaa ugu badanna caqabadaha waaweyn ee company-yada noo yimaada ee waaweyn ee systemyada u baahan haysta weeye
صح ما شاء الله and add the other mahadsantahay Mukhtar. So it's very clear why from a strategic business operating model and ensuring dhinaca ma aragtay from an API their setup inuu yahay mid oo integration la geli karo other businesses marka ma sha Allah mahadsanid Mukhtar. Hadda waxaan sameynaynaa I will share my screen again inshallah and su'aalo badan aan la weydiiyay marka waxaan rabaa in وأركي كرتين سماهنا somalisinTech.uni.io وأوجدين
سفيان
مع سند مختار. Okay, so والله سؤال بدن أنا لويدي and we have 25 minutes left مركا وحن ربنا إن شاء الله as many سؤال as possible إن ما أركتي and إن اللغة جوابه so هدا إسكو دي كرتين مختار شاكس أيان جوابه في عن أقابن nice short concise answers أدي هذا ومحسنتين أنا عن النيشة جاية محل ده I will pick half of each سؤال مركا but everyone who's on and in the Zoom now I'm a YouTube كداونا if you go on somalisinTech.uni.io وكنا هذا أنت هنغطين quickly log on you can vote for سؤال عربتين إن لقى جوابه and I will go from top to bottom وحنكبر لا واقوة into أبدا and voting كالوجسمة. So and Amar, thank you, but please no more scribbling, inshallah. And thank you very much. Okay, so and I heard that there are tech boot camps in Hargeisa. How successful have these boot camps been? If a person is living in Somalia, Somaliland, and they only speak Somali and they want to become a front-end developer, where can they enroll to learn? Marka su'aashan waxaan u gudbinayaa Ayaan oo ah tech hubs and tech boot camps. Or do you know something about this, Ayaan?
And I think I kind of sort of can, but I will try in Mukhtar
Okay.
And I cannot speak for Somaliland, but I will speak for the tech hub and the bootcamps general in Somalia. Okay. I am currently a project manager called Talbile Project Ladahay. Talbile a project all across Somalia, except for Hargeisa. I'm sorry to say that. We had a trouble getting it there because of like different stuff. But we are still trying, hopefully, and in the new year we'll be based there. So what Talbile does basically is like 3 components. Why component one how bootcamps where we have like we take 5 days. We usually collect the layerada or the jam'ala kemada like because there are no and employability within Magalada. So what we do is like in the last year of graduation, we go to the university and then we project and then we tell them by the time you finish university, if you have an idea, you can come with us. We take 5 days where we check this idea. We look at it from the side of technology. Is it a fintech? Is it something that we can be run through technology? Because we are looking at the corona, like COVID-19. So we're looking at this, like this may not end this virus, but is this a startup that really through technology? So we take 5 days out of the bootcamp, then we take like 3 months whereby we bring this idea to life. It can be like more of like an IT when from the side of programming and coding and all of that. It can be a normal business, but it's more of like an online business off mid. So what we do is like we take that 3 months, we bring the idea to life, and then we take another 1 month whereby we look at a startup funding of 2K with this 2K and in a shati notary where they can do their logo, their website and all of that. And then if we see like this youth is somebody that's really interested in the business and he or she can run it, we go to the banking and contract we tell them, hey, give them this amount they want this amount of money to start their businesses. So bootcamps Somalia the idea of we are going to take these 3 months, we are going to work on this business. How Somalis wax doing? They were like, no, why will I take whole 3 months to work on a business idea? Can I just take a week? It's like, it doesn't take a week to bring a whole idea into life. So we are going to take 3 months to bring those ideas. So what we do is like, we take 100 youth and 100 youth by the end of 3 months, 30, 20 because they don't have that and sustainability of what they wanting to drive this business. So we like take 100 so that we shuffle, we know who's going to drop and we know who's going to stay for the 3 months. So we take that 3 months in right now what we are doing, renovation to the center, we are making it more of like a youth space where they can come, because most of the time we don't have the space to work, or we cannot be going to the coffee shop 24/7 because of security and this and that. So what we do, okay, we are going to renovate this space to make it more of like a youth-friendly space. You guys are free to come here, work in space and business idea. We don't have to teach you guys every day. Actually, the idea of bootcamp is not to have a teacher 24/7. It's for you to make it work. We give you the resources, you make it work, you do your own research. At the end of 3 months, I want the idea to be live so that we can get into the funding. But so we are trying to introduce to hold the initiative of bootcamps in Magalada, and the same way the idea of hubs at we want to bring that idea of like bootcamps, like it's not something that can take a week, it's something that can go from 3 months to 6 months. And we are not basically in IT, more of like IT based. We don't teach front end or as the person has asked and all of that, but it's something that we are trying to incorporate it. And it's something that we have in discussions with some of the partners, like, can we have like separate bootcamps, more of like an entrepreneurship, and one that's like basically based on IT, where we teach them coding. We have like coding, summer camp codings and all of that.
Okay, mashallah. Thank you very much. And thank you very much. And a very comprehensive answer. So I will press the tick and so Asha's waka jawabni. And the next question, I'm gonna go to this one. What's it like starting your own tech company back home? Are there a lot of politics involved, starting business, etc., and often need others involved? And Wakil, Shaks, adiga mardoid business below this. So can you answer that question for us, please? And everybody decided to be on mute.
So honestly, for me, my approach to this, and I guess anywhere, is ask for forgiveness, don't ask for permission. Like and with anything, start small. If you want to reach the top of the mountain, it all starts with the first steps. We started a crepe house, and on a crepe and say about is one of the coffee shops or like a Milgo HQ, just another throw in there. And it's a case of trial and error. You fail, you'll fail again, and then in the end, hopefully you'll get it right with the base there. Now, when we come back to starting a tech company, I think this is one of the best ways where you minimize the involvement of others, because it's all about you and the technology. As long as you can get your strategy, the idea, you can get it, you can build out, create an MVP as minimum as you can and get it working, then you move on to the next step. You have to take small steps. And I think sometimes and the experience that lacks here is the capacity to say, oh, I need to do this. Everyone's going to tell you developer and no, it's not about that. You can do it. There is a whole lot of no code and approaches that you can take that is available online that can be done with that. There is, unfortunately, politics involved in Somali business in general. So you have to appreciate that landscape, but you don't necessarily have to become obedient to it, if you will. You can go around that to create an idea that can have value. And as long as you can show the value, people will sit down with you. But if you go to other, to Abti, to this, to that, and say, but they will not help you an iota. So get your ideas together, get it going, show people it can work, and then they'll more than happily support you going forward.
Amazing. And thank you, Shaks. And next question, what tech roles, skills are in demand? Mukhtar, Hakaale.
haddaan ka hadlo su-aasha, waxaan filayaa runtii way badan yihiin.
Okay.
ma oran haddii developmentka aan ka hadlayno, front end developer iyo back end developer intaba runtii waa lagu baahan yahay dalka.
Okay.
baahidu runtii aad buu jirtaa. haddii dhinaca kale runtii waa liiga fiican yahay network iyo security iyo waxyaabahaasna laftirkooda iyaguna runtii baahiyo runtii way buuxaan waliba waxaan dareemayaa baahida aadka wax weyn u jirta horta run markaynu ka hadlayno anigu for the last 8 years waxaan aad dagaal ugula jiraa dadka ajaanibka ah ee shaqo qof Soomaaliya uu qaban karayo in ajaanib loo dhiibo markaynu ka wada hadlayno meel walba hadday noqoto dahabshil group hadday noqoto some digital qof ajaanib ah shaqo Soomaaliya uu qaban karayo waxa weeyaan lagama yaabo inaan runtii inuun madaragtay qof ajaanib wax weeyaan aan ama aan idhaahdo aan propose gareeyo lahaa qofka soocaynka marka imika haddaan tusaale yar soo qaato for the last 2 years ka ugu dambeeyay filasan soo qaadanaya as a Somtel ama dahabshil group waxaanu shaqaalaysiinay ilaa 6 dhalinyaro oo software developers ah departmentkayga laga hadlayo dhammaantood waa dhalinyar Soomaaliya oo jaamacadaha dalka ka soo baxay dhammaantoodna runtii waxa weeyaan ay ka shaqeeyaan qaybaha kala duwan developmentka ama front endka ama back endka ama APIs-ka dhinac walba marka maanta marka project laga shaqeynayo qofkii hadduu frontka ka shaqeeyo backa ka shaqeeyo waa marka full stack bay runtii ay u badan yihiin same like that for some digital solutions labadii sano ku dambeeyay haddaan tusaale usoo qaato waxaanu shaqaalaysiinay ka badan 21 dhalinyaro qaabkan u shaqaalaysiinana waxa weeye marka product aanu cid u samayno client u samayno clientkaas oo client weyn wuxuu u baahan yahay digital dedication oo cid si gaar ah wax weyn ugu sii shaqeysa wuxuu oranayaa hal qof noo shaqaalaysiiya ama laba qof noo shaqaalaysiiya kadib laba qof aanu wax weeyaan si gaar ugu shaqaalaysiinaa ama waxa weeyaan hal qof aanu shaqaalaysiinaa oo haddii isugu soo skorka ula wareegayo haddii kala soo laftirkeeda loo haynayo team buu u baahan yahay si gaar ah isaga ula sii shaqeysa some digital solutions waxaa ka shaqeeya hadda sanadkan 2021 iyo saacadda imkaan ila hadlayo 7 dhalinyaro ayaa ka shaqeysa iyo 3 maamula 10 kaasi ka kooban yihiin shirkadu oo aniga odayaan ka ahay iyo CTO-ga iyo Chief Operation Officer-ka kadib inta kale 7 qof oo dhalinyaro oo developers ah runtii jooga oo iyaguna iskugu jira runtii back end developer iyo front end developers sidaan sheegayna teamka inta leegna labadii sano ugu dambeysay baan runtii aan shaqaalaysiinay oo iyaguna sida kelmadda meesha ka muuqatay ahayd wakiil ka ah shirkadda iyaguna marka runtii dhimaanku aad buu badan yahay waxa weeyaan aad baa runtii waxa weeyaan dhinaca developmentka waxa weeyaan dhimaankaas ugu badan yahay runtii anigu oo ka hadlaya sectorkan sida gaarka runtii aan xoog u saaro ama gacanta ku hayo
absolutely no wallahi amazing in ma aragtay
Mohammed, I would even add the issue walaalkay Mukhtar taabtay oo ahayd dadka ajnabiga la siinayo dowladda Soomaaliya iyo federaalka Soomaaliya haddii hadda artaan la fiiriyo project yaasha 90% waxay wada aadayaan banaanka bay aadayaan waxaan arkoyaa website yaal iyo platform yaal dhisaya such as I won't name actually because they will get me in trouble where aan u jeedo website-ka source code-kiisa naftigiisa in template-ka loo isticmaalayo which cost around $500 la soo ribgareeyay annakana nalka gaday project-iga noo joogo 700,000 and so it isn't sometimes maxaa la project-yaasha markaan fiirino ma ahan aqoon darro inayna haysee sida noola setup gareeyay baa maxaa la dhahaa dhib ka jira waxaa lagu leeyahay waa in barrierska la saaray intaasaa lagaa rabaa intaasoo milyan waa inay businesskaaga soo martay all of a sudden disqualifying there are a lot of barriers like in terms of coming back to the question and I'm going to switch to English because it's easier for me coming back to the question we do I think Hadith, one of the way I talk to people is we have to create the resources we need for the future. You cannot go to the market and hire the people that you need. So the only option left for you is to get people with the basic foundation that you need and build upon that foundation so that they can become of value to you tomorrow. And as you can imagine, there's a risk to that, but it's a necessity when you're here, especially. And I think being online helps. Somalia has one of the cheapest if not the cheapest mahalla connectivity in Africa in terms of the internet. So that's helpful, but we lack the specialism and mahalla the experience.
Exactly.
I got
Muhammad, finally you are on mute.
Yeah, well, it was my turn. Thank you very much to you both. It's really interesting to hear that some digital, you're already 10 people in the company, all Somali, and also the challenges from about outsourcing and giving contracts to for foreign, both from a government but also local businesses is I'm sure is a very big challenge. Okay, I wanted to ask, is there a group helping people in the agriculture industry using sensors and Internet of Things devices? This is a very, very quite technical question. I know, and Ayaan spoke about Ari Farm, but it's a quite technical question. So if we just say the question is there a group helping people in the agriculture industry? And Ayaan, do you know anything about the agriculture industry from a tech point?
I wouldn't say so indirectly, but
Yeah.
most of something that we have seen is most of our donors have been really interested in the layer of agricultural business, and they've been asking, do you guys have a startup that works in agriculture? We could be training them, we could take that in this and that. The thing we have saying agriculture, that is something like a certain group of people. So shifting them that mindset that Somali most depend agriculture. So the importance of agriculture is something that we are trying to make the in a fahman, and we have like a group of youth. We actually wrote an article of them. If you go to Ira's Hub and website, you can see that article. And it's not the idea, it's more of like not that brilliant, but we are trying like push it and more of like boost them, that like trying to join them to this field, so that we can have like these donors who have like money for this sector of agriculture, they can take advantage of it. So there isn't like a group that's actually supporting, but it is something that we are trying to even as to shift that side, like IT, even though we are technology, but we are trying to like connect agriculture with technology instead of that. It's something like that as we are working on, it's something that we are trying to bring the layer and then we can help them. And if we don't have the knowledge, and we can pass it on to them, to these UN companies that are looking for youth that are based in agriculture.
Okay, amazing. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Ayaan. So we're running close on time. I just want to ask before Mukhtar, Sheikhs, Ayaan, is it okay if we do go 10 minutes over? I just went through the list. There's many questions. We won't go more than 10 minutes, inshallah, but I just want to check first. Is that okay?
Yes.
Ayaan? All right, cool. Okay, so, and just to everyone in both watching, we'll go 10 minutes over because of the vast number of questions that we have. So quick fire round. How's crypto adoption in Somalia? Let's go to Shaq, since you're in the payment space.
Everybody's interested. Everybody in Mahalla. Started off with people just being like, look, you got an account in Somalia. The barriers to Somalia is that there is the credit card facilities are limited, and those that are available sometimes are not usable because they are .so Mahalla cards. So people be giving me cash to buy them crypto. I know of 2 companies that are selling crypto for US dollars. And super interested. Sometimes I wonder how much do they know Mahalla in it and about what they're investing in. There is a risk that exists, considering Ayaan horet Somalia wax badan waxa looga dhacay forex, yes. Forex lacag badan looga dhacay. So there is a liquidity here. They're interested. Some people are even talking about how do we make the Mahalla Somali shilling into a digital and money. So that's also another thing that's of interest here.
I was hoping we were going to have an event without mentioning forex once, but it's been touched. And
let me put it this way: I'm trying to get investment, and every time I talk about digital Mahalla money transfer, managing money, dadka way ka kala caray forex baa lagu dhacay iga raali ahaa baa lagu leeyahay. So
fair enough.
hal shay baan ku sii yardari lahaa Maxamedow,
just aniga arbeen hal wax ku sii dira adiga
ana ka boobaya
when Shaqs ka hadlay crypto Mukhtar adiga waa qoslaysa marka aniga waxa isleeyahay adiga xaalada meel fiican ay ku mareysaa wallet kaaga uu buuxa
runtii waa arinta waxa weeyaan aadka u xiisaha leh maanta. runtii dhalinyarta Soomaaliyeed meel walba ay joogto, honestly speaking, aan leeyahay kuna dardaarayo waa shayga kaliya tan anigu hayo weeyaan marka loo eego dhinaca teknolojiyadda aynu maanta adduunka kala simanahay weeye haddii la fahmayo yani waxa weeyaan waa shayga kaliya taa marka orodka la bilaabayo tartanka orodka soo liidka lama wada istaago
صح
ya marka sida loo kala dheereeyay marka moo faraxda marka ugu dambeeyo inuu xadga horgaaraa laakiin moo faraxa maanta xadga horgaaraya waa opportunity ugu weyn runtii xagan ay ku jirtaa oo cryptocurrency-ga maanta adduunyada waynu kala simanahay adduunyadii bangiyadii baa la nacay cid aan uga warramaynaa runtii ma jirto inta technicalka inuu baan u yadu marayaa waa wax aan laga doonayn inaad license haysatid iyo inaad account mail kaaga furantay bangiyo oo lacagta marka laga soo saarayo waxaan xasuustaa runtii Canada wax weeyaan bangiyada kamida Canada ayaan isticmaalaa anigoo xaggan dalka jooga inay lacagtaydu ay soo gaadho waxay qaataan mararka qaar 2 week runtii oo marka lacag laga soo saarayo marka crypto waa meesha waxa weeyaan lacagaha runtii ugu fiican deebaata waxa weeyaan adduunyadu ay marayso in badan runtii kullayba dalka imka mudooyinkan ugu dambeeyana runtii aad baa loo hadalhayaa xagga qodobkan ku daraya waxa weeye Somali shilinka iyo dollarka in waxa weeyaan la isku bedelaa macna caynkaasi kuma sii jirto laakiin internally in runtii shaqadaasi ay noqoto waxa weeyaan token iyo NFT ba xaggan laga hadlayaa marka runtii rag badan oo interest meesha ku ah ku jira opportunity-gaas ma sheegaya runtii inay meesha si weyn u taalo cid kasto oo runtii teamkeena kamid ah iyo cid kasto inaga maqan bara waa way u furan tahay majaalku runtii in laga wada shaqeeyo hawsha iyada intaas ka baxaya
amazing aad iyo aad aan mahadsantihiin let me just see we've answered that question okay so the crypto question waa laga jawaabay next question what are the current tech needs in Somali I'd like to get involved and provide any support I can but as a person living in the USA I have no idea what the current needs are so Ashan ya'tabu inay ka jawaabaan
I'll give it a go. Like for me as a company, if one of the things I talk and we think like bothers me is the fact that when I'm buying servers, when I'm buying infrastructures, they're all based abroad. The nearest server I think I can find is probably in South Africa, but most of the time, Lino, the AWS, all of those, they're offering London and the like. So server infrastructure, apart from the big guys like Somtel or Mahalla or Mood, nobody else has got it here. So that's one thing why. Okay. The other thing Hawaii and being financially linked to the rest of the world. And this is a problem that we're trying to solve. So I'm maybe Mahalla quoting myself. But service in so they want to go to Egghead as an example and get tutorials. There's no way for them to pay for that facility and infrastructure. So somehow figuring out ways that we can link ourselves to the outside world is a area of interest. And then ultimately, some of these services I think it would be amazing to find larger organizations that can somehow offer free services to our young people, okay? So that they can also get it done. Or even setting up sessions where you train young people on specific things, whether it's front end, UX, UI, project management, all of these are required skill sets.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
If I add what Shaks just said is, and Somalia, the youth really have an interest in IT, but I don't think the IT skills and the knowledge is more of like localized. There is one guy who uses the internet that is trying to like make it the coding more of like a local thing. It's like translate. I forgot the name, but I would like to mention him here. He was been really trying. Anybody who's like wants to help Somalia in the IT side, any localized, like make it easy for them, break it down for them so that they can understand it, because they really have the hammy for it. But wixii internetka ku jira iyo wixii u baahan yihiin iska la because there is like that language barrier so the technologies actually another languages noqonaysa so it's like a double language barrier English ku qoran adana language IT is like more of like a different sort of more of like in a low breakdown gareeyo like make it more of like simple something that's user friendly u dhalinyarada.
Amazing. Ayaan. Great contribution. Let me go on to this question. It's a very interesting question. How is Somalia's adoption of big data analytics? Mukhtar. you got something to add on this one, inshallah? Big data analytics.
Okay. Run ahaantii markaynu ka hadlayno qaabkay dadkeenu waxa weeyaan big data analytics-ka waxa weeyaan ay ama u isticmaalaan ama loo gaara waxaan filayaa kulleyba sida horeba aynu sheegnay kambaniyada waaweyni way iska kooban yihiin waxa weeyaan data badan wax la analytics-ganaynayaa waxaan filayaa masiib waxa weeyaan waa kambaniyada dadkeena waa iska kooban yihiin waa marka baahi badan oo runtii sii jirtaa ma taalo oo hadda laga yimaado kambaniyada waaweyn sida dahabshiil iyo kuwa la halmaala marka waxa weeyaan runtii waxaan filayaa waxaan kusoo koobayaa un jawaabtaas in horta hadda seeskii aynu marayno horta in seeskii la dhiso iyo sistemyadii dadku ay isticmaalayeen meel iskugu soo yar wada koobo oo baahiyihii shirkaduhu ay isticmaalayeen sistemyadii hadda loo dhiso kadib marka data la helaabaa analytics-keyga iyo waxa weeyaan loo galaaye runtii in iminka seeskii un ay weli ay u marayso oo runtii baahiyihii un iminkaanu dhisayno oon cid walba ka caawino qaabkii ay kambanigu u yeeli lahaa system uu ku isticmaalo laakiin big data analytics runtii waxaan filayaa hadda yani xoog ma xagaa ma sii aha mana sii saarna anigu intaasan kaga baxaya shaak iyo ayaan baan kusoo dhaweynayaa haddii jawaabta ku darayaan
Good, definitely. Hadda ku daraysiin soo gala, if not we can move on.
Ayaan, you want to jump in first?
I don't think I am well versed in that sector. I would love for you to take it.
Let me see if I can. I'm a bit where, like, when we come to big data analytics, it's all about these large Mahala data warehouses that gather a large amount of data about the populace and then try to create. Because in order to actually analyze, you get a store, and in order to store, you have to have the facilities to store. We don't have that at the moment, and I'm somewhat thankful for that because we've seen the abuses that's happened in terms of big data and analytics that's come from it. Yes, it's necessary, but I also would love to see before we start doing this and policies in regards to what kind of data can be captured. I want to be Somalia, ideally more like Germany than the USA. At the moment, though, with the lack of laws and policies in place, you can track anything about anybody and there's no legislation to stop you. We just aren't at that stage at the moment, and I'm thankful for it. And in the future, I definitely would push more policy about data rights, data policy, data ownerships. I would love to see that before we actually start going into big data analytics. If we look at just the amount of information the likes of Somtel or Mood would be able to gather about us, they can use that in any way that they want, and there's nothing to actually stop them. They just haven't turned around to it. How do we make money in this rich soil that we have? It's not about optimization and for them. Therefore, big data analytics, it's all about that final few trickles that you want to get sometimes. And I'm kind of glad for that.
Nice.
Back to you, Mohammed.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll do one, and with the time, we'll do one final question. Firstly, there was a thing here, not a question, but mashallah, Mukhtar, your journey is inspiring, bro. Allahumma barak.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to whoever wrote that lovely message. So we've got several questions left. What we'll do is, by the way, I just wanted to say to everyone who's in the call, let me see if I can share the right link this time. No, I can't seem to. Okay, maybe if you could help me out and we could share the feedback form. If we could share the feedback form to everybody. I mentioned it earlier, but I'll repeat again. This event came about through the feedback we got last time. I think we had a coding event and everybody said we want to know more about tech back home. So we're listening to your feedback. So please fill in the feedback form, which we'll share shortly in the chat. No, 1 second. We both keep sharing the wrong link. There's something, I'm not sure when you're trying to do copy and paste on Zoom, it's not working. So let me come here. Here's the link. Let me paste it properly in this time. Yes, it'll beat me to it. So yeah, this is you should be able to see my form. It literally takes 2 minutes. So you go to okay, 2 minutes, very easy to fill in the form. How would you rate the event? It's anonymous, so you can be honest. But we need the feedback so we can continue to make events that people are interested in. Today, I think we had over 200 people join via Zoom and YouTube. So that will only happen if we keep doing events that you want to hear about. It's literally 2 minutes. So I'm not going to do this because I don't want to skew the results since we were just talking about data, but fill it in, takes 2 minutes, inshallah. And the link is in the Zoom chat, and hopefully we'll share it on YouTube as well for those watching. But if I could come back here, we have one final question, inshallah, before we wrap up. So if we go to the first one, Mukhtar, I just recently joined the tech industry. I would always, a tech industry, software engineering, I would always love to come back and help my country. What skills do you feel like is missing currently in Hargeisa with developers? What would you advise I learn in the UK and bring back to Hargeisa? So we'll finish with that question, inshallah. So over to you, Mukhtar, as you were name checked. I think
Okay, thank you so much runtii qofkan aad baan runtii ugu mahad celinaya su-aasha specifically soo weydiiyey run ahaantii waxa weeyaan waxaan aad kugula talin lahaa oon aad u jecelahay mar walba gaabkaasina iga soo horbaxaa marka aan team hire gareynayo haddaan idhaahdo full stack mararka qaar waxaa la doonayaa qof full stack software developer ah baahidii baa dalka taala lacag badan in la bixiyo lama doonayo xaqiiqi marka la isku sheego oo dalka waa iska garanaysaan yaa marka qofkiina wuxuu doonaya inuu wax walba loo qabto oo application dhammaystiran uu qofkii wax weeyaan ka shaqeeyo application dhammaystiran markaan ka hadlayo tusaale ahaan haddaan soo qaato web application waxa weeyaan dhammaystiran oo React tusaale ahaan ku dhisan ama AngularJS backend-kana uu SQL server ama waxa weeyaan Postgres la isticmaalayo oo haddana APIs ay jiraan oo third party applications la xiriirayo waad garan kartaa waa full stack software developer haddana la doonayo hal position inuu qofkii loo qaato oo saddexdaa shaqo kala qabanayay aan la ogolayn marka I prefer mar walba horta back end developer inaad noqotid insha Allah back end ka xoog aad noo saartid inta kalena wuu iska yimaanaysaa front kana waan kala shaqeynaynaa marka inaad back end ka aad xoog inoo saartid baan runtii xagga development ka aan arinta wax weeye kula talinayaa wiil iyo gabadh ku yahayba thank you
amazing aad u mahadsantahay Mukhtar iyo kulligiinba aad mahadin gelinaya Shaks Ayaan aad u mahadsantihiin amazing
Mo,
to have.
Can I add one thing before?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just like
Of course.
And I needed to I showed the title and tech back home to somebody, and well, actually they approached me and they said, you know what, the assumption tech back home is that it is different than tech anywhere else. That in itself should be taken into consideration, that our technology and the way we use technology, those of us who do consider our day-to-day, is we use it like everybody else. We are as connected to the world as you are, so please don't consider and the other thing that, and I learned this the hard way, if you're thinking tech back home or you're thinking just generally back home, please don't come with the hero syndrome. You're not going to be rescuing Somalia. What you will, and I think the healthier way to look at it is to say, I'm going to go get value and give value, right? We're going to meet somewhere in the middle so that we can gain value from each other, whatever that value might be. And I think that would always be one thing that I tell everybody, inshallah.
Bro, I think that was really good reminder. TLDR, no hero syndrome, okay? And come with a perspective that you'll also be learning, maybe even probably more so than you'll be benefiting others. So I think we'll leave it on that note, inshallah. What I wanted to say, just a few concluding remarks and comments, is we had a lot of questions on the Nuni that we couldn't get to, but it's quite fitting because the Somalis in Tech newsletter, as I mentioned earlier on, some of what we'll be doing is trying to answer questions from the community. So we'll be taking that forward in next month's newsletter. We'll aim to answer some of these questions, and we'll speak directly to the panelists that we have today in formulating those. So do stay tuned for next month's newsletter. Mukhtar, I've said it already. Shaks, I think Ayaan too now, they're in the Slack community. So join our Slack. We've shared the link several times, but it's somalisintech.com/Slack. You can have your one-to-one conversations. I haven't checked these analytics for number of DMs, but there's a lot of people having conversations one-to-one within the Slack. So do join if you have a specific questions. If you're relocating to Hargeisa, for example, and Mukhtar Hakaale might be able to, and show you a few local tricks. If you're heading to Mogadishu, so long as you leave the hero complex syndrome at home, Shaks, I'm sure will be more than welcoming you. And of course, Ayaan is there too. So with that, I wanted to say as well, do follow our socials, Somalis in Tech. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. So we're on a lot more places than you'll find me. So do join and continue the conversations. And I wanted to say one more time, thank you for the team. I'm the person who everybody is seeing, but best believe I didn't put this together. So shout out to the whole Somalis in Tech team for all the effort that you've done in putting these events together. So we'll do a little clap to all of them. We have many, Idil, Faiza, Adam, and Abshir. So big shout out to you all. Thank you to everyone who's joined us today. We've had like 75 people on the I think on the Zoom and many more on YouTube as well. We appreciate that. Fill in the feedback, as I said, then we will know what we should do next, and we'll make sure that we keep listening to your views and opinions about what you'd like us to talk, and also rate this event. Was there something that went well? Did you think like Mohammed Abd Salam Somali is so bad he shouldn't do it again? Is it actually okay? Maybe. So let us know in the comments. But one final thing I want to say is, I'm not sure if we do a round of applause, but Mukhtar, Ayaan, and Shaks, we appreciate you taking the time out. And wallahi, there's been so much learned. I've learned a lot today. And my Somali has just gone like at least a 10% increase at the end of tonight. So and we'll definitely stay in touch. So we'll leave it there, inshallah, unless anybody has anything else to say. Yes, actually, Shaks, you can follow him at Shaksi on Twitter. Hakaale, Mukhtar, you can follow him at Hakaale on Twitter as well. I think there's a page as well for Some Digital. You can find them on LinkedIn, and Bihi as well. I think it will be on the show socials. It's just coming out into the wild world. So I think a few people asked about the website, but stay tuned. And Ayaan as well is at Khalif Ayaan, if I'm not mistaken. So any final comments from you three before we end the show tonight, inshallah? No, that's it. We'll finish on a good note then. Adi Adam Mahsantin, everyone, and thank you. Salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam.